Bilal, thank you so much for joining us virtually. Hope you can hear us okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. Very good
No,
morning.
it's awesome. I'm so glad that out of your busy and packed schedule, you're able to make time to join us here virtually. I wanted to start off with just giving a little bit of context leading into the first question. Bilal, you're the chairman of Pakistan Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority, also Pakistan's Minister for Crypto and Blockchain. Since about 12 months ago, there has been like a plethora, like this race of announcements that I've noticed. In February 2025, the Pakistan Finance Ministry announced it was establishing the National Crypto Council. In May 2025, you were appointed Pakistan Crypto Council Chief Executive and also Prime Minister's Special Assistant on Blockchain and Cryptocurrencies, and also Minister of State. July 2025, the Virtual Assets Ordinance was enacted by PVARA, where you became the chairman. December 2025, PVARA granted the first no objection certificates to Binance and HTX. And just last month, you also signed the MOU with World Liberty. That's a lot of things happening in just a very short amount of time. Can you tell us a bit more, I guess, of the context of why Pakistan is racing towards this clarity, towards so much action?
Thank you again. Yes, we had a very busy year here in Pakistan, and let me be very direct. So, Pakistan didn't just wake up one morning and decided that we love crypto. In 2025, Pakistan did realize that we have approximately 40 million of its citizens who are already trading digital assets with zero rules, zero protection, zero benefit flowing back to the state. The market existed, but the regulations didn't. So essentially, we tried to move from a gray market into a governed market. We are already the third largest crypto market by retail activity, ahead of Germany and ahead of Japan. And until recently, we've had no framework whatsoever. So people are operating, but in the dark. Money was leaving, talent was leaving, and the government really understood that they must act. So, with 250 million people, 70% under the age of 30, we are one of the most tech savvy youth populations on the planet. We have over 100 million unbanked citizens, people who have no saving tools, no investment tools, no way to break out of their economic class. And hence why crypto and blockchain are not a luxury for Pakistan. They are a ladder for the masses. And then we also have other great use cases which the government realized. Remittances. Pakistan receives over $36 billion every year. Money flow in through expensive, slow, outdated channels. Stablecoin can make those faster, cheaper, and more transparent. So we are trying to solve a lot of structural problems that affects millions of families every single day. And then we also have a geopolitical reality. Every serious economy on earth right now is building for the digital financial infrastructure. The UAE did it, Singapore did it, EU did it, United States is moving towards that. And if we do not move fast enough, we don't just essentially fail, we become irrelevant. And I refuse to let that happen on my watch.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely fascinating. 2026 is going to be a first full year of developing this regulatory landscape, and help us to understand what's on the roadmap. What are the plans?
As I mentioned earlier, 2025 was about building the foundation. 2026 is about scaling the architecture. So we are essentially working on four pillars that the international community should be watching us very closely, which is the full licensing. So the NFTs, as you mentioned, were issued to Binance, HTX, and those are essentially preliminary clearances. In 2026, we move towards an operating regime for wallets, custodians, broker, token issuers, modeling again best of Dubai is VARA, Singapore, looking at the EU, Mika as well. And Pakistan will be one of the first emerging markets with a complete regulatory stack for the virtual assets service providers. Secondly, stable coins. We're working closely with our central bank, and as you mentioned, we've also are exploring integrating some of the bigger players with cross-border transactions. Thirdly, it's tokenization. So we've also signed a MOU with Binance to explore the tokenization of our sovereign bonds, treasury bills. Fourth is we also want to create the first AI-enabled regulatory authority. We don't want Pakistan Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority to be a traditional regulator. We are building what I believe to be an AI native regulatory authority from licensing to supervision to market oversight. So Pakistan 2026 goes into from framework to execution.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I think the topic of regulatory clarity has been a theme that we've had discussed many times over the last couple of years across many different jurisdictions. As just a follow-up question to that, can you just help the audience understand a little bit more what's different about the way that you're approaching it? What's a different way that Pakistan is approaching this regulatory clarity?
Essentially, what is unique here in Pakistan is we started with the market, not with the theory. I think most kind of regulators write rules and then look for a market. We already have the third largest market. We are building the guardrails around a highway that already has a lot of traffic on it.
Hmm.
And that changes essentially how you design a regulation. We are there to foster innovation. As I mentioned, we have 100 million unbanked people. We have a lot of illiquid assets. So we want to look at regulation from a 2026 perspective, not a 2010 perspective. Then we are trying to build the whole ethos around AI being embedded into our core operation, from licensing workflows to predictive supervision. We want to be as AI native and would try to use as much agents as possible. And third, I think it's speed as a principle. We've made a deliberate choice that regulatory speed should be a competitive advantage because capital does not wait, talent does not wait. If your licensing process is taking years, the platform will go somewhere else.
Yeah, got it, got it. I want to ask about an announcement that you made back in May of 2025 around the government of Pakistan having plans to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve, a commitment to 2,000 megawatts of electricity for Bitcoin mining and AI data centers. Can you give us a little bit of an update since then, since that announcement, how that's been progressing, what the latest developments are around that?
So I'm happy to report that we are in motion. But when you are dealing with something as strategic as the Bitcoin Reserve or the national energy allocation, speed without structure can be dangerous. So on the reserve, the first step was governance. So we've identified the digital assets that are held by the state, moving them into a formal state-controlled custody framework, and that establishes transparency, the accountability, and the standards. On the mining side, the work has been technical. We've identified the sites where we have the surplus electricity, and now we are assessing the economics and the impacts. And at the same time, we are also engaging with global miners and also AI compute operators to structure responsible partnership models. So this is not essentially just a standalone crypto experiment. It's part of a broader strategy because Bitcoin mining and AI data centers are the two mechanisms for converting unused energy into a productive capacity for our country.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. The final question I had for you is something that I've been asking every guest that I've had. What is one conviction of yours that others would consider to be contrarian?
My conviction would be that the next $1 trillion economy, crypto economy, will not essentially be coming out of the valley. Let's say Singapore, Dubai, or London, it will come out from the global south, from countries like Pakistan, Nigeria, Indonesia, Bangladesh, countries with massive young populations and broken financial infrastructure. And we have nothing to lose by leapfrogging the old system entirely. The developed world is trying to retrofit blockchain into a legacy system. They've invested too much in the old world. Countries like Pakistan don't have that problem. We don't have the legacy infrastructure to protect. We have the 100 million unbanked people who've never had a bank account, who never will. What we need to give them is now a wallet so they can move directly into the decentralized finance. So the contrarian part is that most people think that regulations in the emerging markets is a risk. I think it's the single greatest opportunity in global finance, because the countries that will get the regulatory architecture right, that builds trust, that attracts platforms, that empowers its youth, the country doesn't just join the global digital economy, it will essentially lead it. And with Pakistan having 250 million people in the third largest crypto market, the fourth largest freelancer market, we have over 7 million freelancers. We are not just catching up, we are here to rewrite the playbook. 10 years from now, when we look back at the moment, we'll say that the South essentially stopped asking for permission and they started building the future for themselves.
Yeah, no, that's really fascinating. And I completely agree with the leapfrogging point. I think we've seen that pattern happen in fairly different geographies and fairly different generations. And I do think that there's a really high potential of seeing that over here as well. Bilal, I just want to thank you again so much for taking the time, for dialing in to join us here at Consensus Hong Kong.
Thank you so much for having me.